For decades, he watched, waited, and vanished into the night. Welcome to Whispers in the Shadows HQ. From 1974 to 1986, a profound and unshakable fear gripped the communities of California. A shadow moved through the quiet suburban nights, a masked man who slipped into homes with terrifying silence. He would tie up couples, his presence a chilling violation of their safest space. And then, just as quickly as he appeared, he would disappear, leaving behind a wake of terror and bewilderment long before the first police sirens could pierce the stillness. What began as the work of a prowler, a methodical burglar who earned the name the East Area Rapist, soon escalated into something far more monstrous. Over the course of a decade, he committed more than 50 brutal assaults and was responsible for at least 13 murders. The trail of devastation he left was immeasurable, with countless victims and entire communities held hostage by the fear of who might be next. The newspapers were filled with his composite sketches, his crimes splashed across the headlines. Neighborhoods formed watch groups, ordinary citizens patrolling their own streets, peering into the darkness, wondering if the monster lived among them. But who was the man behind the mask? His name was Joseph James DeAngelo, a man who expertly navigated two starkly different realities. In one life, he was a husband, a father, a man who coached his daughter's softball team. In another, even more chilling reality, he was a former police officer, an individual sworn to protect the very people he systematically terrorized. This dual existence was his greatest weapon. DeAngelo wasn't just a random predator, he was meticulous, controlling, and chillingly methodical. He used his police training, his knowledge of tactics and procedures, to stay one step ahead of the investigators who were desperately trying to catch him. He was a phantom, known by many names, whispered in fear: the East Area Rapist, the original Night Stalker, and finally, the one that encompassed the sheer scale of his reign, the Golden State Killer. For years, the investigation was a frustrating, agonizing crawl. Despite thousands of tips and countless hours of police work, the trail went cold after his last known crime in 1986. He simply vanished. Investigators had his DNA, a crucial piece of the puzzle preserved from crime scenes, but the science required to unlock its secrets hadn't been invented yet. The case files grew thicker, gathering dust on shelves in evidence rooms. For the detectives who had dedicated their lives to this case, and for the victims who lived with the trauma, it seemed as if justice might never come. The Golden State Killer had become a ghost story, a haunting chapter in California's history that remained terrifyingly unresolved. Then, decades later, a revolutionary breakthrough changed everything. In 2018, a team of brilliant and determined investigators, led by the late true crime author Michelle McNamara and investigator Paul Holes, decided to try something that had never been done before. They uploaded the killer's preserved DNA profile to a public genealogy website, a database used by everyday people to trace their ancestry. It was a long shot, a needle in a haystack search, but it worked. By finding distant relatives, they painstakingly built an entire family tree, branch by branch, until all the lines of inheritance converged on one man. After more than 40 years of silence, the shadow finally had a name and a face. In April of 2018, the world watched as the past violently collided with the present. In a quiet, unsuspecting Sacramento neighborhood, police cars swarmed a suburban home. After 4 decades of freedom, of living a seemingly normal life while his victims carried the scars of his crimes, law enforcement finally knocked on Joseph DeAngelo's door. The man who had haunted a state for so long, who had evaded capture through cunning and cruelty, was finally taken into custody. The image of the elderly man being led away in handcuffs was a surreal end to one of the longest and most terrifying manhunts in American history. The click of the cell door closing was a sound of finality, a sound of justice that had been delayed for far too long. In the summer of 2020, Joseph DeAngelo faced his victims and their families in a courtroom. To avoid the death penalty, he pled guilty to 13 counts of first-degree murder and admitted to dozens of other uncharged crimes, including kidnappings and brutal assaults. As he stood before the court, he uttered the words, "I admit." His voice barely a whisper, a faint, pathetic echo of the terror he had once commanded. For the survivors and the families of those who were lost, it wasn't a moment of victory, but one of profound, somber closure. It was a testament to their incredible strength and resilience, a final confirmation that their pain had not been forgotten. The case of the Golden State Killer is a chilling reminder of the evil that can hide in plain sight. But it is also a powerful story of perseverance and the relentless pursuit of truth. It proves that no matter how much time passes, the truth cannot be buried forever. For every shadow that lingers, there is always a trace left behind, waiting for the right moment, the right technology, and the right people to bring it into the light. Whispers in the Shadows HQ, where every secret leaves a trace.